we need more playing.
I'm not sorry about that part.
We're working with a microphone that is good, but probably not completely reflecting or reproducing the quality of the sound that comes out of that beast. What do we have?
I like this guitar a lot. This is something new that we're introducing at this week's NAMM show. A couple of years ago, when we first launched the V-Class idea, one of the flagship instruments that we had designed was an instrument we called the K14. You're familiar with it. Going back even a little before that instrument, this is more closely what I had originally imagined.
Okay.
This one is a 324 Builders Edition guitar.
Okay.
Because I was thinking about that instrument originally as like a high-performance acoustic machine. It's not terribly fancy.
Yeah.
It's the parts that you really want, like the sonic aspect, the playability aspect, the comfort level, the tactile aspect.
Yeah.
Everything that goes into the acoustic part of that instrument
Which
is what I
became the main idea of the Builders Edition. Then.
That became the main idea of the Builders Edition.
Yeah.
So finally this year we get to launch this 324 guitar, which is very closely resembling the first one I built.
Okay.
Now one of the exciting aspects of this guitar, in addition to the good sound, the contoured bevel cutaway, the armrest, the contoured edges, all those things, this guitar is made with a material we call chamois ash or urban ash.
Yeah.
Now, it's a different concept in forestry altogether.
For urban, we have to say urban California.
Yes, urban California. So what that means is when you look around the world at traditional wood sourcing, where you get your timber, we all picture a forest, right? You imagine big trees and lumberjacks in plaid shirts and with axes and that kind of thing. But that's not the only story. One of the aspects we became interested in, Bob Taylor and myself and Scott Paul, we all started looking around at what is in our own backyard. What other options are there? Because as we move into the future, we want to be building great instruments out of great woods. But we also know that some parts of the world, those forests are under a lot of pressure, and we don't want to contribute to that. We want to do our part to improve those forests.
Where pressure, in this case, is not just consumption, it's also climate change that is applied to it.
There's all
just to make it clear, we're not just talking about taking wood out. We're also talking about the influences we can.
I mean, if you want to talk about taking wood out, one of the biggest causes of forest loss is actually removal of forest, specifically for agricultural usage. Maybe palm oil or rubber, or there's many different things. Maybe cattle ranching land. There's a lot of reasons for it. Regardless, one of the things that we're excited about is when we look at the trees on the side of the city streets that are there. Okay, well, think about those for a minute. Those trees were put there for a reason. Every city, all across the world, every city is planting trees on purpose. Maybe they're for noise breaks on the side of a roadway. Maybe a wind break. Maybe for their aesthetic value, or for cooling, or for carbon sequestration. Well, just like any living thing, there come a time when those trees become too big and they fall over and become a safety hazard for people, for motorists. Or maybe they're infested with an insect, or for whatever the reason, those trees are taken out and replanted with younger trees.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's value in those trees.
Yeah.
Right now, nobody's ever really been thinking about what the end of life is like for one of those trees. Typically, it's just turned into mulch when a tree like that comes out. Logs are hard to transport. I get it. I understand that.
Yeah.
They're big, they're heavy, they're awkward. So usually they get chipped up.
Yeah, but the chips can be used for stuff, so
Yeah,
they're still not completely lost.
No, they're not completely lost,
But,
you're turning it into the thing that you hope becomes dirt. Like, really? And so we started looking at those with a fresh eye and going, well, what if we could build great guitars out of some of those trees? Because there's more wood coming out of cities than there are most forests. There's a lot of material there.
There's plenty, yeah. Golf courses.
Yeah, so you
They
look
had
at
to
these.
take half of the trees out because the storm would
Yeah, so
turn them over.
you look at those and think, well, if I was a violin builder working 300 years ago, I'm not going to go halfway around the world looking for some little slice of wood to build a violin with. I'm going to look into my backyard and say, that one's big enough. I'll use that. I'll design around whatever it sounds like.
Yeah.
And so we started working with an incredible company called West Coast Arborist, who handles all of the city-managed trees in California. Go, hey, is this a viable idea? And not only were they open to the idea, they were far ahead of us. I mean, here in the U.S., there's been a Department of Urban Forestry for years, but the conversation has never been about the end-of-life usage for those trees.
Yeah.
So we started working with these urban timbers a number of years ago, and we're excited to say that this now is the first guitar that we're able to produce that was designed specifically to use urban forested timber.
Okay.
So the back and sides on this guitar are made from a special type of evergreen ash. Originally it was a Central American species that was propagated here throughout Southern California in the kind of 50s and 60s. And it has a really unique set of characteristics that make it behave a lot like the mahogany we already love.
Yeah.
So it's a good drying wood, saws well, sands well, planes well, finishes well, most importantly, sounds great.
Most importantly, stays in shape.
Well, yeah, it's got dimensional stability, so that's nice, you know. You don't want it to break apart. You know, you got that small, that's a nice benefit. Doesn't turn into splinters when it gets dry, you know.
Right.
Things like that. But this wood, it sounds amazing. And so we designed this guitar specifically around that ingredient to go, hey, why not? It's not a limited edition, it's just going to be part of our way of life.
Yeah.
So when we look at these forward-thinking forestry projects we have, the Koa project, the Ebony project, these different things, while those are wonderful, and we can also acknowledge that those are very long-term projects.
Yeah.
So we see some benefit right up front because you're improving the health of forests.
Yeah.
But a lot of the long-term guitar making benefit that's decades, even a century out from now.
Yeah.
So when we look at what our immediate future looks like, we think, well, what other options are there? What other elements of this story are there?
If you look within a 5 years time frame, you have to look which big trees already exist.
It's like there has to be more to the narrative.
Yeah.
There's got to be more here that we're just not seeing.
Yeah.
And so this is one of the things that, as a guitar maker, I'm really excited about. I think it feels like a whole new world.
Okay.
You've got this new element added into your kind of list of ingredients that you get to work with to make a really amazing sounding guitar that looks great, sounds great, plays great. It's a wonderful instrument.
If you would now have to kind of describe how much traditional setup is possible and how much you had to tweak to make this would work?
Well, I guess it would be, I would have to compare it to what alternates I might have built the guitar out of. In this case, the closest similar wood that I have is Central American mahogany.
Yeah.
So the Honduran mahogany
Yeah.
that oftentimes comes out of Guatemala or Belize or some other place. That's the closest physical wood that I can think of to this chamois ash. But the chamois ash has this kind of this special something that just feels like it wants to sound good all the time. So he designed around that.
Well,
so this
kind
guitar,
of the hidden treasure.
yeah, this
Always
guitar is
hidden
actually a blend of both mahogany and chamois ash for different elements. It's got a mahogany neck, or classic ebony fingerboard and whatnot, to make kind of light of this. But together, these elements just pair so well. So it's a real exciting piece for us to be launching this week, actually.
Yeah. We're looking forward to see those in Germany and at the NAMM show. We hope California is doing a good job in planting trees anyway.
Yeah, it's a subject that needs to be expanded even more.
The next turnover brings good ideas as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting the time into the instrument, into looking around left and right what is outside the traditional path, and for the time you gave me for the interview.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.